Magandang gabi mga ka-PI at maligayang pagdating sa PI Podcast in our Mayo Uno Special kung saan yung tatalakayin natin yung mga issue na bagay sa petsa na ito. And I'm your host, Matt Ordonez, and with me in the podcast ay isang tao na sabihin natin, aktibong mamamayan, at isang tao na matagal ko nang pinagmamasdan, at hinahangaan sa mula Twitter, I think even ever since the or X, ever since the 2022 elections up until we first met sa book launch ni Walden Bello in Global Battlefields na 1 year ago. Tapos we just see each other in yung mga Trillion Peso March, yung mga rallies. So parang napaka-active, napaka-busy. At matagal natin, pinag-schedule, ilang beses na inurong. At sa wakas, we're going to record an exciting episode with his work with Project Gunita, okay, which we'll talk about in this episode tonight. Please welcome, mga ka-PI, ang ating guest, si Carl Suyat. Welcome, Carl, sa PI Podcast. Go ahead.
Magandang gabi, ano ba? Magandang gabi, no?
Mm-mm.
Magandang
Gabi
araw
ngayon.
na lang, general.
Mm.
Magandang
Oo.
araw po sa lahat ng mga ka-PI natin, sa lahat ng mga fans mo, lahat ng
Fans.
followers mo,
Oo. At fans natin, syempre, may mga
fans
supporters ka na
natin. Correct.
makikinig. Oo,
Ah,
natin. Sharing.
correct.
Oo. Marami ka ring fans. And syempre, of course, I'm a fan. Wow.
Ay,
So,
wow! Thank
yes.
you!
Oo. Na parang, well, can you please introduce kung sino man si Carl at anong ginagawa mo? Like, kasi ang dami mong ginagawa na
Correct.
napaka-political, active. So, sige. So, sino ba si Carl at anong ginagawa niya before we get to Project Unita? Sige, go ahead.
Okay. Ako po si Carl Patrick Suyat. Sabihin na natin na kung tama ang aking mathematical
Mm.
ang aking arithmetic. I've been active in social movements organizationally for nearly 8 years, pero
Mm-mm.
kung isama natin yung time na i-factor in natin yung time na wala pa akong organization formally,
Mm-mm.
na kahit
Mm-mm.
ano at na ano lang tayo, at that time ang tawag ay mga social justice warrior online.
Mm.
Siguro
Oo.
mga kulang-kulang isang dekada na rin, no?
Wow.
Ako po ay isa sa mga nagtatag, co-founders ng Project Gunita, isang
Mm-mm.
academic research organization. That's how we call ourselves formally. An
Mm-mm.
academic research organization focusing on martial law history and
Mm-mm.
archiving of martial law related material. Ako rin po ay member ng batch 2023 ng
Mm.
August 21 movement, no? So ito
Mm.
yung um, pag-usapan na lang natin yung kasaysayan ng Atom in a while, pero ito
Mm-mm.
kami po basically yung batch 2, no?
Mm-mm.
Kami yung mga younger batch ng Atom. I am also currently a senior member and a reporter
Mm.
for UP Journalism Club. It's a journalism organization, but it also
Mm-mm.
has its publication, yung Crisis, based in
Mm.
Diliman, no? In UP
Mm.
Diliman, where I also continue to study for X years. Huwag na natin pag-usapan yung taon, no? Taking up an associate in arts course in Malikayang Pagsulat sa Filipino. Ano pa bang
Mm.
mga ginagawa ko? Ayan, pasundot-sundot sa mga rally, sa mga
Mm-mm.
book launch, yan, sa mga kung saan mangganap ang basta may kinalaman sa bayan natin.
Mm-mm.
Yan.
Yan. Wow. Ang daming kaya yun. Pero parang, so, klaro natin, well, your main mission here is yung, ang tawag dito, is about martial law, the memory of
Mhm.
martial law. So, bakit
Yes.
ito yung, people always say, pick a struggle. But ito yung struggle mo ni Carl Suyat. Okay, bakit ito? Sige. Sa lahat ng mga issues na pwede mong pagsulatan, bakit ito?
Okay, sabi nga ng mga if I'm not mistaken, ng mga feminists ng 1960s, 'di ba? The
Mm-mm.
personal is political. So
Mm-mm.
gagamitin ko yung parehong rationale na yon, no, for to
Mm-mm.
kasi dalawa yung dahilan ko, yung personal
Mm-mm.
at saka yung political, no. Doon muna ako sa personal kasi I
Mm-mm.
always whenever I'm asked about this, I always start with the personal side of it kasi ito yung
Mm-mm.
hindi man sa mas may bigat, pero ito siguro yung syempre mas may attachment sa akin personally because it comes from a very personal point of view.
Mm.
It's a long story pero syempre marami tayong kailangang pag-usapan, no. So
Mm.
medyo paikling ko lang,
Sige.
i-abridge ko lang ng konti.
Mm.
I was born, I grew up, and I was raised by two families who had very
Mm.
distinct experiences under the Marcos dictatorship. One
Mhm.
side, my father's side, uh, fought the Marcos dictatorship, as in they were
Mhm.
activists. Yung
Mm.
some of them almost went to jail. One of them went to
Mm.
jail. Expound ko in a while.
Mm.
No.
Mm.
So mga lumaban to sa martial law in the streets primarily.
Mm. Yes.
Tapos yung other side ko, yung sa mother side ko,
Mm.
they were affiliated with the Marcoses. They
Mm.
were not big cronies, ha. They were not big cronies. They were not yung para mga danding kuwangko type na ano. No, no, no.
Mm.
But they
Mm.
served the Marcoses nonetheless. Some
Mm.
of them served the
Mm.
Marcoses nonetheless. No. So I grew up na ang mga usapan namin sa dining table, no, during dinner time ay hindi tungkol sa mga pambatang usapin, no. We didn't, you would expect in a typical Filipino family setup, pag lalaki
Mm.
ang anak at bata, 'di ba? You'd usually expect you talk about basketball, especially
Mm.
kasi I was born in 2002. So,
Mm.
yung mga early 2000s, medyo yan yung hot shot, 'di ba? Usap kayo tungkol
Mm.
sa basketball, usap kayo tungkol sa, what's your favorite cartoon, 'di ba? O ano pa ba?
Mm.
Ah, mga ganon, 'di ba? Yung mga pity per sake stuff, no?
Mm.
Pero ako, at 6 years old, I
Oh.
was I was turning 7 in ano eh. I was turning 7 in 2009.
Mm.
So, pero di pa ako nagbe-birthday noon.
Mm.
Um, as we all know, 2009, it was a very tumultuous year. Maraming nangyari diyan
Yes.
sa kasaysayan natin. But
Oo.
in 2009, former President Corazon Aquino died.
Mhm.
Namatay si Cory, no, because of
Mm.
colon cancer.
Mm.
I was 6 years old. Nanonood kami sa TV nung libing ni
Mm.
dating Pangulong Aquino.
Yes.
Siyempre, you're a 6-year-old kid, no? You barely know anything. So, manonood ka sa TV, you see someone being buried, pero
Mm.
she's being laid to rest by hundreds of thousands of people.
Yes.
And it's being televised, no?
Mm.
It's covered live on TV on all stations. You go to
Mm.
Channel 7, you go to Channel 2, you go to the government channel, 'di ba? It's all the same thing. You
Mm.
open the radio, ganun din. The next day,
Mm.
pag tingin mo sa dyaryo, talagang nanlilisik yung dilaw, 'di ba?
Mm. Mm.
So I asked my father. I asked both of my parents kasi we were watching it eh.
Mm.
Wala kang mapanood eh.
Mm.
And we were watching it.
Mm.
Tinanong ko yung parents ko, anong meron? A simple
Mm.
question.
Mm.
Anong meron? And then they started, especially my late father, he started to explain slowly, piece
Mm.
by piece.
Mm.
Ito si Cory, ito
Mm.
yung dilaw, ganyan. Doon ko unang narinig yung mga, yung people power,
Mm.
yan. I was 6 years old that time. Believe me or not. Believe it or
Mhm.
not. I was 6 years old that time.
Yeah.
And then, siguro, the curiosity, no? The curiosity, um, the curiosity stayed. Tapos,
Mm.
nung nasa preschool pa lang ako, especially, tapos na semento lalo nung elementary ako,
Mhm.
napansin ko, I do not have that kind of affinity or affection for math, for science.
Mhm.
Pero when the subject is social sciences, araling panlipunan,
Mm.
'di ba? Kasi pa yan nung panahon na 'yon eh.
Oo,
Kasi pa yan
naalala
nung
ko pa,
panahon na 'yon.
oo. Mm.
Oo. Doon ako active, parang napansin ko sa sarili ko, I don't care that much when we talked about whenever we talked
Mm.
about fractions for example, or basic scientific theories, ganyan-ganyan.
Mm.
Pero pag ang pinag-uusapan, mapa ng Pilipinas, putya, sabi ko, bakit kabisado ko yung lahat ng
Mm.
regions ng Pilipinas before it
Mm.
was modeled nung Duterte, ang daming mga
Mm.
nadagdag eh, 'di ba? Pero
Yes.
nung at least yung basic regions, 'di ba, from region 1 to 13 if I'm not mistaken, tapos CAR
Mm.
NCR.
Yes.
Tangina, bakit? Ganon.
Oo.
And then, nung, di 2010, the next year, di nanalo
Mm.
si Pinoy, was 7, ganyan.
Oo.
Lalong na-trigger because an Aquino, it
Oo.
was an Aquino who sat as president, who won as
Mm.
president.
Mm.
Lalong na fire up yung curiosity ko about martial law,
Mm.
ganyan-ganyan. So my father
Mm.
started to talk about it more. Doon niya na
Mm.
sinabi sa akin, he was a former member of the League of Filipino Students.
Mhm.
Uh, he was a left-wing activist for several years. And
Mhm.
then, in 1985, last full year ni Ferdinand Marcos Sr. sa Malacanang,
Mhm. Mm.
um, ano yung tatay ko, yung lolo ko, my late grandfather on his side, and yung
Mhm.
isang auntie ko, isang tiyahin ko sa side na yung kapatid niya,
Hmm.
buhay pa siya hanggang ngayon. Siya na lang yung
Mhm.
buhay sa kanilang tatlo. They
Oo.
were crucial. They became crucial in the formation of the first urban poor organization in Taguig City. Kasi
Hmm.
ang parents ko, mother side, father side, parehas
Mm.
yan natives ng Taguig City.
Ah.
Okay. So, in 1985, binuo nila yung alyansa ng mga maralita sa Taguig, Almatag.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yan. And basically, ang issue na bitbit nila, issue ng maralitang Tagalungsod, pabahay, no? Lalo
Mhm.
na, i-contextualize ko lang, i-situate ko lang yung context niya in briefly, very briefly sa ating mga
Hmm.
ka-PI.
Hmm.
Ang Bikutan as we know it now, Barangay
Hmm.
Western Bikutan, Barangay Central Bikutan, and two to three other barangays. Dati, they're collectively called Bikutan, and that huge tract of land that came to be known as Bikutan at that time, they were still
Hmm.
part of the Fort Bonifacio complex.
Aha.
Militar ang may hawak dyan, or gobyerno may
Hmm.
hawak dyan. Okay.
Hmm.
Pero as time went by, ano yan ang residential mo lang dyan dati, yung tenement. If
Mhm.
you remember, yung tenement, yung housing project na nagsimula kay Macapagal tapos tinuloy ni Marcos
Yes.
at naging Bliss, no,
Mhm.
napakana ni First Lady Melda Marcos.
Mm. Sa'min na lang 'yan. Sa
Oh, correct.
sa Outsider Village,
Pe-
oo.
pero labas sa tenement, yung ano na siya ngayon talagang residential na siya ngayon. Talagang
Mm.
isang buong community na siya ngayon, no? Isang buong
Hmm.
barangay na nga siya in fact. Um,
Hmm.
pero dati ano lang 'yan, kung tama ang pagkakaalala ko sa mga childhood story sa akin, isang malaking talahiban lang 'yan dati.
Oo.
Oo, kasi nga it's a government ang ganyan. So ginawa na Almatag, they asserted the right of the urban poor na nandun na nagsimula nang mag-settle essentially dun sa mga lupa.
Mm.
Na mapasa kanila na yung lupa. Total tinirhan
Mm.
na naman nagsettle na sila and all of that ganyan.
Yes.
Yon. So, yan yung mga first exposures ko sa activism, sa
Yes.
mga yung concepts of
Mm.
struggle, 'di ba? People
Mm.
struggle,
Mm.
ganyan. Yan na yung mga una kong exposure. Pero ito ay ano lang ako, I was 7 or 8 at that time. Tapos
Mm.
yung makulit kong tatay, sabi niya sa akin, no, panoorin mo to. Kala ko naman kung ano yung ito. Yun pala, he was suggesting to me at that time, which I followed by the way, pinanood ko siya.
Mm.
That 1997 historic documentary called Batas Militar.
Yes.
Hindi pa maganda yung maganda na quality niya ngayon sa YouTube, pero back in the day, ano pa yan, divided
Oo.
pa yun into 10 parts. Batas
VHS pa
Militar
'yan,
1
oo.
to 10.
Mm.
Tapos sobrang labo niya, min.
Oo.
As in,
Naalala ko
sobrang
rin.
labo niya.
Yeah.
Tapos, cut pa siya. So,
Hmm.
Batas Militar 1 out of 10. Batas
Oo.
Militar 2 out of 10. Pero sige, wala akong magagawa eh. So,
Mm.
pinanood ko. At tingin ko, yun yung naging parang watershed moment ko, if I can call it that, in
Mm.
terms of fascination with martial law history. Kasi,
Mm.
doon na na-cement yung interest.
Mm.
That's the time when I first heard of the names Saturo Campo, si Maria
Mhm.
Sison, Dante
Mm.
Boscaino, 'di ba? Bernabe
Mm.
Boscaino, and all of that. Yung first quarter storm, doon ko siya unang narinig.
Mm.
Alam mo ba rin nung bata ako, when I was 9 or 10, believe it or not, I barely remembered anything about fractions, pero I can recite from memory Oplan Sagittarius and Rolex 12
Mhm.
because I watched Batas Militar again and again.
Aha.
Tapos ang tatay ko rin noon nung panahon na yon, meron siyang ginawang little tradition namin. Well, kaming dalawa lang talaga, pero syempre damay yung nanay ko, damay yung
Mm.
pamilya, pati yung kasambahay namin. Ah, siya rin yung nag-fire up sa akin ng personal fascination kay Ninoy Aquino. Kasi
Hmm.
ang pagkakakwento niya sa akin, ang naging trigger din niya personally para maging aktibo sa progresibong kilusan ay yung pagpatay kay Ninoy Aquino noong 1983. In fact, yung
Mhm.
siya at yung nanay ko, pinanood nila from tenement yung libing
Mm.
ni Ninoy. Kitang-kita mo yun kasi wala pa naman Skyway nun eh. Tapos, hindi pa naman ganun kakomplikado ang SLEX at that time or sa
Oo.
Superhighway. Tapos, di makit lang sila doon sa 7th floor ng tenement. Tapos nanonood lang
Mm.
sila, ganyan, nung
Mm.
libing. So, may tradition kami noon na every August 21, remember it was the Pinoy
Mm.
administration. So, medyo alien pa yung concept ng historical distortion as we know. It was not as rampant as it is now.
Mhm.
So, sa Channel 4, every August 21, may mga rerun niya ng mga documentaries ng RTBM.
Mhm.
Noong panahon na ginawa nung panahon na si Cory pa yung presidente. Ano yan,
Mhm.
nire-rerun yan every August 21. Pinapanood namin yun habang kumakain ng hapunan. Tapos
Mhm.
magkikwento ulit siya, ganto ganyan. Maabot sa punto, isang buong
Mhm.
laptop binigay niya sa akin. Yung laptop, punong-puno ng kung ano ng mga video tungkol lang sa EDSA, martial law, ganyan-ganyan.
Mhm.
So, if your question is, bakit sa maraming pakikibakan ng mamamayan, yung martial law yung pinili ko?
Mhm.
The personal side was that, in a
Mhm.
nutshell. Doon na siya
Yes.
nagsimula. I can go on. Yung lolo ko, yung mentor ko nung high school, na dati rin pala student activist ng martial law,
Aha.
nung nasa high school pa college na ako, papunta na ako ng Diliman, doon na nagkwento sa akin ng buo yung mga pinsan ng tatay ko. Mga tsuhin
Mm.
ko rin sa side niya.
Oo.
Ganyan. Na mga nag-aktivista rin, yung isa sa kanila, munti ka maaresto
Oo.
after speaking in a rally in FEU, believe it or
Yes.
not.
Mm.
Tapos yung isa nahaina ng ASO, Arrest Search and Seizure Order back in
Mm.
1977. Tapos sa side ng nanay ko, yung lolo ko, buhay pa siya. Yung lolo ko sa
Oo.
side niya, ng late mother ko,
Yeah.
ay dating chauffeur. That's the official term eh. Pero
Mm.
fancy term lang naman yung for driver alalay eh.
Yes.
Believe it or not, he was a chauffeur for the late Ambassador Benjamin Cocoy Romualdez, tatay
Mm.
ni Speaker Martin Romualdez.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
grew up, dalawang perspective yung nakita ko about
Mhm.
martial law.
Right.
And ultimately, nung namatay tatay ko noong 2014,
Mm.
sabi ko sa sarili ko, gusto kong ituloy yung political tradition.
Yes.
Yung kung paano niya ako minulat in his own way,
Mm.
nanonood ng balita,
Oo.
nagdi-discuss ng politika. Sabi
Oo.
ko gusto ko siyang bitbitin kasi that's the only connection that's the only solid connection that he left
Yes.
to me. Namatay
Mm.
siya. I was barely an high schooler, grade 6 pa lang ako nung
Mm.
namatay siya eh. So
Mm.
gusto ko sanang i-live lang yung personal tradition. Kaya
Yes.
lang, syempre, tumatanda ka, nagkakaroon ka rin ng understanding at ito na yung sundot ko doon sa political reason na
Oo.
eventually magkakaroon ka ng understanding na martial law is a continuing crime. It's a continuing form of impunity. Kasi,
Mm.
ang tawag dito, many of the crimes, if not all,
Yeah.
committed during the Marcos dictatorship
Mhm.
were left unpunished. Almost all, if not all of them.
Mhm.
'Di ba? At yung understanding na yan, lalo siyang naging malalim sa akin
Mm.
when I entered high school. Kasi yung nung nag-high school ako, 2015 to 2016, ito na yung sobrang unpopular na ni Pinoy bilang presidente because of Mama
Oo.
Sapano,
Yes.
because of this, because of that.
Mm.
At tapos, sumisikat na noon yung narratives ng Golden Age, ang martial law, ibalik ang kamay na bakal,
Mhm.
tapos susundan bigla nung bakit hindi na lang natin gawing presidente yung mayor
Yes.
ng Davao,
Nge.
Rodrigo Duterte.
Mhm. Alam natin
Yan.
kung anong nangyari diyan, 'di ba?
Correct. So high school ako nung nanalo I was about to enter second year high school when
Mm.
Duterte won.
Mm.
And the rest is history. 2 years after, naging aktivista na ako at nagdire-diretso na yun from that.
Oo. Pero on that, before we get to that, no, I like how even your formative years were defined by key points in Philippine politics. Pero parang
Correct.
I want to go back to like sabi mo, yung tatay mo, aktivista, left wing, isang founding member ng League of Filipino Students. Yung nanay mo naman ay isang pro Marcos, na hindi naman crony, pero parang iba yung, let's sabihin natin punto de vista, about martial law.
Well,
How did they say that? Is that correct? Yeah?
hindi siya pro Marcos per se, but
Sir,
she grew
yes.
up in a pro Marcos household essentially.
Okay, okay. So for
Uh,
even then, even yung pamilya niya medyo mas iba yung politika nila, di ba? So, how
Correct.
did you synthesize these different parts of history, even in your own childhood, even in your family, with, sabihin natin, there's some difference, but,
Yeah.
how did you synthesize them, or how did you settle which one is truth? Because I know a lot now. Yung martial law, ay pinag-aawayan yan kung anong totoo at kung anong fake news, kung anong distortion. So, in
Mm.
your early childhood, in your family, how did you settle those, let's say, arguments or debates? Sige, go.
Hmm. Okay. Siguro the fact na hindi lang kasi ako pinag-rely sa kwento. My
Mm-hmm.
father specifically, he encouraged me to to do my own research. You read
Okay.
this, you watch this, 'di ba?
Mm-mm.
Ganito ganyan. Tapos siya lang yung magpo-provide ng parang contextual explanation. Sa tingin ko yun yung
Mm-mm.
naging isang crucial factor.
Mm-hmm.
Tapos sa side ng mother ko, kahit yung lolo ko doon sa side na yon.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, he served the Romualdezes more specifically actually.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
served Kokoy for 20 full years from 1965 until EDSA.
Mm-mm.
Pero siya mismo hindi ko nababanggit yung mga anecdotes pero kasi
Uh-uh.
buhay pa siya.
Uh-huh.
Pero batay doon sa mga anecdotes na kinikwento niya sa akin, meron din kasing confirmation na yung ibang sinasabi ng history or ng mga tao in general
Mm-mm.
about the Marcoses and the Romualdezes, totoo
Mm-mm.
siya.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically stuff related to the plunder of
Mm-hmm.
people's money, people's
Mm-hmm.
wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So parang kung may konting level of confirmation din from this side of the family kahit na basically sila yung Marcos, 'di ba? Pro Marcos, 'di ba?
Mm-hmm.
May lolo campaign for BBM for President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in 2016 and 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Ano talaga yan? Staunch Marcos loyalist yan.
Mm-hmm.
Pero pag naririnig ko yung mga kwento yun, yung mga anecdotes na yun, may confirmation din na at the very least may pagkakamali rin sila eh.
Mm-hmm.
And these nuggets of confirmation, they were told to me even at that time, even at that early time. So
Mm-hmm.
parang doon ako nagkaroon ng solid footing na it must be true. I just need to confirm and verify it independently, aka I need to verify it myself. And that's what I did, especially after my father died.
And this is where dyan pumasok yung journalism, all right? Is that why you chose journalism as bilang kurso mo sa kolehiyo? Or kailan nagsimula yung journalism? Kahit yung high school, di ba?
Yeah. Well, journalism is not my course. Pero,
oh, sorry. Okay.
Yung siguro yung penchant for journalism, yeah,
Okay.
it started in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Started in high school. Yung mentor ko noon, yung sasabi kong mentor ko, the late Inesita Cuevas, we called her Miss Ness. Patay na rin siya. Nung parang first or second session namin sa kanya, she was our English professor in grade 7. This was in 2015. Okay. Parang first or second session, sabi niya, okay, class, let's have this activity, ganyan. The activity was, we will sing Lupang Hinirang in English. Like the translation. Land of the morning, ganyan. Okay, so kanta. First section kami nun, pre, putang ina, ano kami nun? Star section kami. Tapos napansin ni Miss Ness, rest in peace. Napansin niya, sabi niya, parang walang enthusiasm, napaka-lackluster nung performance ng klase. Believe it or not, she went on a monologue, she went on a harang. Talagang, sabi niya, alam nyo, ano to? Wala kayong ganyan-ganyan, yung sa pagiging makabayan, ganyan-ganyan. Tapos, the immortal line, I mentioned this in my eulogy for her when she died. Sabi niya, you know, I lived through martial law. Sabi niya, you know, I lived through martial law. I was there at EDSA. I know what it means. I know what it meant to fight for freedom. Inasabi ko. Kaya ako nun, syempre, alam ko na yung, by that time, alam ko na rin yung nangyari kay lolo ko sa other side, sa lolo ko sa father side, na in 85 and apparently even in 86,
Mm-mm.
pinagdadampot sila at tinorture at
Mm-mm.
well, hindi siya tinorture, pero mga kasama niya tinorture,
Oo.
and they were detained as they were political detainees in Bikutan,
Mm-mm.
in yung Camp Bagong Diwa ngayon.
Mm-mm.
So nung nagganon si Mrs. Ness,
Mm-mm.
nagpintig yung tenga ko, syempre martial law eh, di ba?
Mm-mm.
Sabi ko, okay. So after class, I walked up to her.
Mm-mm.
She had a reputation of being a terror teacher, and
Mhm.
she loved maintaining that para hindi siya bastusin ng mga estudyante o hindi siya
Oo.
baliwala yung mga estudyante niya. She
Oo.
she was a she was she was a she was a mentor par excellence. Like, talagang of high caliber siya.
Mhm, mhm.
Anyway, I had to mention that kasi everybody was terrified, especially after that yung talagang
Oo.
pinagalitan, sinabo niya kami ng puta, everyone was very afraid. Ako hindi, lapit ako sa
Mm,
kanya after class.
mm.
Sabi ko, "Miss," sabi ko, "ah, my family also fought martial law." Nung kwento
Hmm,
yung kay Lolo, yung kay Airpat, ganyan.
mm.
She was surprised, she was fascinated. And then, inaccept niya ako sa FB. Alam mo,
Hmm,
rarely nag-accept ng ano yan dati,
oo,
ng friend request na mga
oo.
estudyante sa FB. Naku po,
Mm,
pare, kailangan matalino ka bago ka niya papasukin sa FB. That's not an
mm,
exaggeration. FB
mm,
niya. And then, August
mm.
21 of that year, 2015, di nag-post lang ako ng short essay. Wala lang mga short notes lang sa, na tungkol kay Ninoy, ganyan,
Hmm,
remembering Ninoy. Tapos, naglagay lang ako ng picture nung
mhm,
burol ni Ninoy sa Santo Domingo
hmm,
Church. And then,
mm,
she commented, nag-comment siya doon na sabi niya, alam mo, pumila ako. I
mm,
lined up in his funeral for 3 hours, ganyan, ganyan, never
mhm,
forget. The next day, August 22, di klase ulit. Klase na naman kami sa kanya, 7 na umaga. And then after class, biglaan niya akong, like, right in front of the entire class, bigla
mm,
siyang sumigaw.
mm,
Mr. Suyat, sabi niya, Mr.
mm,
Suyat, you attend the meeting of Herald later in the afternoon.
oo,
The Michael Yan Herald kasi yung pangalan
mm,
nung parang student publication namin nung high school.
mm,
You attend the meeting of Herald later at 3 p.m. ganyan. Alam mo, Matt, I tried to apply that year.
mm,
Kasi nung pina-attend niya ako ng meeting ng Herald, believe it or not, tapos na yung application season. Tapos na,
yeah,
sarado na. And I decided, sabi ko, parang hindi muna ako mag-a-apply kasi kalilipat ko lang sa eskwela na yon, St. Michael's College of Laguna.
oo,
Kakalipat ko lang doon that year. So parang sabi ko, nangangapa pa ako and all of that,
hmm,
ganyan. Pucha, yung advisor, yung paper advisor ang nagsabi sa'yo, pumunta ka. Who could say no to that, right?
hmm,
Yun na yung naging entrance ko sa journalism.
mm.
Sa
Okey,
campus journalism specifically.
campus journalism.
Naging
Ha hmm,
I was a product of the press conferences ng DepEd.
okay.
Yeah.
And then this
Yeah.
continued up until college?
Until now.
Yeah, until now. Okay.
Mm.
Ah,
Pero may ano yun.
mm,
Pero may dagdag ko na at this early stage. Meron din kasi siyang, nahulma rin siya ng mga kondisyon na pinagdaanan ko.
mm,
The biggest of which was, nung 2018, second year na ni Duterte to, height na to ng tukhang, ng
mm,
lahat ng kontrobersya under former President Duterte.
mm,
Doon ako nag-decide, gusto ko na maging aktivista. Like, gusto
mm.
ko nang ma-involve, like, with an organization and all.
Oo.
Ayun, pagod
Wait,
na akong panay post lang ako. Hindi, I want to do something already.
right. Ano ba yung mga
Y-
beats mo bilang journalist o anong sinusulat mo? What are the beats? Go ahead.
Okay, sige. Before I continue with that anecdote,
Yeah.
sagutin ko muna to.
Uh,
Um, ang entrance ko, believe it or not, I was a scriptwriter for radio broadcasting.
oh, wow. Okay. Which
And kaya
mm,
And kaya ako napunta doon kasi yun na lang yung open na slot sa ano. Dalawa na lang ang open na slot nun sa Herald. It's
mm,
either I go for that or I go for sports writing. Wala akong
sports.
kaamor-amor.
Ah,
Wala akong kaamor-amor sa sports at that,
oo.
especially at that time.
Mm,
Diba? Na parang I do not have enough gumption, I do not have enough background to
mm,
survive as a sports writing. Tangin na kakainin ako ng buhay ng mga kalaban ko doon sa press
mm,
conferences. So I opted for radio broadcasting kasi
oo,
so it's a script, ganyan-ganyan. Hindi rin siya madali. Pero
oo,
after that, doon ako, siguro mga 1 year, mga 10 taon ganyan,
oo.
or 2 years.
Hmm,
So sabi ni Miss na sa akin noon, you go for editorial.
oo.
Kasi mas bagay ka sa editorial. You go for the
Mm,
editorial.
mm,
Pero on the side, I was also writing, I also wrote, aside from editorials, syempre, including op-ed, yung column, yung parang column style, di ba? May pangalan mo, byline
mm,
mo, ganyan.
mm,
Mukha mo. Pero on the side, I also wrote a few future features, pieces for features.
Mm.
Mas ganon hanggang nung graduate ako ng high school,
Mm.
ng junior high school.
Mm. Pero
Yep.
pinipili pa rin yung mga topics na, of course, political, government, or
Yes,
ano.
and yes, and considering na very political din si Miss Ness because she had that background. She
Oo.
was a political active. She was a student activist din nung martial law.
Yes. Oo.
So she wanted to impart that kind of politicized nature sa amin. And
Mhm.
she always she always reminded us na hanggang ngayon sinasabi ko to whenever kasi ngayon at least may opportunity na tayo ngayon to do
Oo.
campus journalism lectures ganyan. I
Mm.
repeat this
Mm.
to my audience. Yung
Mm.
sasabi sa amin dati na truth has to side.
Mm.
Truth has a side. You need to
Yes.
side with the truth.
Mm.
Ano,
Okay.
yung unbiased journalism, yung objectivity, it's a fucking myth. She didn't say it that way, pero di ba? It's a
Uh-huh.
fucking myth.
Uh-huh.
Yan yung mga early lessons na I was very fortunate to have during
Mm.
my formative years in high school.
Mhm.
So, kunyari, example lang, snapshot lang. In 2018, grade 10 na ako nito, so fourth year high school technically.
Mm.
Kung sa lahat, yung sa old pre, yung kung nasa terms tayo ng pre-K to 12
Mm.
ladderized system.
Right.
Na ako, fourth year na ako noon, fourth year high
Oo.
school, 2018.
Mm.
Tangin na mga pinagsusulat namin noon na pan-training sa
Oo.
campus, sa mga press conferences, campus press conferences, train law.
Mm.
Yung panukala dati ni now Senate President Tito Soto na palitan yung last line ng lupang hinirang,
Oo. Na.
federalism,
Yes.
red tagging ng AFP, mga ganun. Oh, tuwa siya pag mga ganun ang pinapasa ko sa kanya na
Oo.
draft. Tapos
Oo.
putangina, nung division level press conference of that year, DSPC,
Mm.
alam, kung may mga kapiyay tayo makikinig na mga may campus journal, gets nila to.
Mm.
Ang DSPC, believe it or not, putangina, naghanda ako ng tungkol sa federalism, SONAT, human rights, to ganyan. Pucha, ang lumabas, disaster response.
Mm.
Sabi ko, nasusulat ko dito, buti na lang, the press conference proper happened, if I'm not mistaken, a few days after Duterte SONA that year.
Mm.
Okay. Ito
Yeah.
yung SONA niya na it's the same SONA na kung saan niya binitawan yung human lives over human rights na rhetoric,
Yes.
yung bullshit rhetoric na yun.
Yes.
Kasi in the middle of the SONA, syempre na overshadow na siya nung mga banat niya sa tokhang, ganyan.
Mm.
Pero he mentioned kasi, Duterte mentioned at the time, yung tungkol sa creation ng yung Department of Disaster Resilience and Management.
Mm.
Oo. Or tama ba? Parang Department of Disaster Resilience something,
Yes.
ganyan.
Yes.
Oo, na parang counterpart ng NDRRMC, ganyan, or consolidation nun. So, ang ginawa ko, yun ang binanat ko, tapos inaangkla ko siya, kung tama pagkakaalala ko, inaangkla ko siya sa lente ng or sa angle, sa framing ng basically climate justice yun pero
Right.
hindi ko na ginamit yung term na climate justice, ganyan.
Oo.
Ayun, na parang, tapos sabi ko pa, the best disaster response, ganyan, pag ginamit yung pera ng bayan to
Yeah.
hindi lang para magtayo ng isa pang bureaucratic layer, pero talagang i-address yun na ganyan.
Yeah.
Yun, I landed first place.
Mm.
So I qualified for the regional level, the regionals, yung RSPC, Regional Schools Press Conference, that same year.
Yes.
Mas matitindi. Mas matitindi yung nun. Mas matitindi mga tungkol na sa mga training namin nun, yung mga training drafts namin nun. Ito yung panahon na inaresto muntikang aresto yun
Yeah.
si Trillanes, former Senator Antonio Trillanes, yung dadamputin na sa Senado.
So, I mean,
Maganda na
you've
training
written
namin
on a lot of news events, pero gusto ko sana sabihin, nasabi mo, well, your mentor said, you must side with the truth. Pero bilang journalist, paano mo malalaman kung ano ang totoo? Ano ba ang katotohanan? Kasi parang, hindi ibig sabihin na kalaban, like, it's anti-Duterte, ibig sabihin, totoo ka agad. It's the same thing. Yeah. So, it's not just binary. Minsan, hahanapin mo pa. Minsan, kahit mga kalaban ni Duterte, mali din sila. Or something. So, paano mo malaman kung anong totoo? Sige, go.
Okay. Ang training kasi sa akin nun ni Miss Ness, and okay, in that same year, in that same time frame, dyan na ako naging nagsimulang makipag-usap, magkaroon ng mga kaibigan na mga actual journalists.
Mm-mm.
Ah, magkakilala na kami by that time ni Inday Varona, Inday Espina Varona.
Oo.
At the time nakikipaghuntahan na ako kay with the late Joel Pablo Salud, who was at the time the
Yes.
editor-in-chief of Philippines Graphic. My
Mm.
God, my dear friend and mentor. Ay,
Yes.
Diyos ko.
Mm.
Ayun, ganun. So, ang training nila sa akin, at ito rin yung training sa amin ni Miss Nesano sa paper, sa Herald. Very journalistic eh. If you want to find the truth, you have to verify every single piece of information that you receive. Layers of verification. Ganyan mga training yan eh.
Yes.
Ganyan yung mga training nila sa akin. Ganyan yung paghulma nila sa akin na you just don't go for one source. If you can get a second source to corroborate, a third source
Mm-mm.
even. Yung
Mm-mm.
parang yung three sources rule sa
Triangulation. Yes.
yung triangulation sa journalism.
Mm-mm.
Yan, mga panahon na yan diyan ko talaga nalaman 'yon.
Mm-mm.
Tapos ano na rin ako noon eh, voracious bookworm na rin kasi ako since
Oo.
I was in high school. The start of high school, grade 5, grade 7, grade 8. So
Mm-mm.
15 to 16. And then 15 to 2016.
Mm-mm.
So by reading, by the virtue of the act of reading, doon na rin ako nahasa intellect in terms of intellect, in terms of mental na ganito sasalain yung disinformation sa truthful factual information, or basically you sift through facts and falsehood, di ba? Tapos nakalimutan kong ikwento kanina. I think this is the propitious time to mention it. Pare as a reader, I did not start with books, believe it or not.
Diaryo.
In 2013, I was still in grade school. I started to read the Inquirer, Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Ako rin actually.
Inquirer. Inquirer was my gateway to reading, not even books. And ito yung Inquirer, this is very important kasi for our listeners, mga kaibigan natin na nakikinig, no? Yung Inquirer that time is not the Inquirer that we know now. The Inquirer of that time was of higher level of caliber and quality. That's not a shade on the current Inquirer. May mga kaibigan ako sa Inquirer ngayon eh. Pero in terms of editorial management, my God, Leti Jimenez Magsanok yun, pare. Ibang standard ang sinet ni Ma'am Leti. Hindi lang sa Inquirer, pero sa lente talaga ng journalism. And she remains to be one of my journalism heroes. Right. Filipino journalism heroes, my God. So, by reading Inquirer and analyzing how they treat stories, ganyan, tapos alam ko na rin, at that time, alam ko na rin yung history ng Mr. and Miss, special edition, yung paglaban ng so-called mosquito press sa censorship at disinformation ng martial law, ganyan. Yon. So, lahat yon parang sama-sama na lang sila in my head, and as time went by, I was slowly able to synthesize all of them. Hanggang sa nagkaroon na ako ng quote-unquote proper understanding, or hopefully a proper understanding of how do you not only sift through facts and falsehood, but how do you ultimately arrive at the truth about a certain personality, about a certain event, ganyan. At yun yung ina-apply ko na principle. Ito yung mga principles na until now I continue to apply.
Yeah. Can you give an example kung saan medyo nahirapan ka maghanap ng katotohanan? Kasi parang it's a good way to show your method na parang it's not clear. You really need to look and investigate and think. Sige nga, kung saan ka nahirapan and how did you go through it?
Ano ba to on a personal level? Kahit on a personal level?
Sige.
Mama Sapano. Hanggang ngayon, I am still befuddled. Kasi I followed Mama Sapano sa balita. I followed the Mama Sapano tragedy in news. Hindi pa ako tibak nito, hindi pa ako aktivista nito. Ano lang ako nito? Yung simpleng news hawk, ganyan. And grade school ka ako, by the way. Nung pumutok ka tama, nung pumutok ka Mama Sapano, graduating ako na ng elementary. January 2015. Nandun ako sa balita. Ang basic question sa akin nun is, why would Getulio na Peñas supposedly or purportedly act on his own? Basic, syempre iba na yung mas malalim na yung understanding ko ngayon ng chain of command, etc. kumpara nung time na yun. Pero from the basic understanding that I had at the time, sabi ko sa sarili ko, parang nanonood kang balita, babasa ka Inquirer, di ba? Bakit ang lumilitaw is he acted upon the operation on himself and by himself. without coordinating to the military, without coordinating to parang sinarili niya ganyan-ganyan. Di ba, not to mention, he was not even the police chief. Alam ko siya ang hepe, kung tama ako ng pagkakaalala, siya ang hepe ng SAF at that time. But he was not the police chief, no? Technically, it was Purisima. It was Alan Purisima. But Alan Purisima was suspended at the time dahil doon sa controversy sa White House, no? Yung mga corruption issues involved. It was not even about Mama Sapano. So, tapos ang basic question ko nun, at actually until now, this is still one of my biggest questions about Mama Sapano. Ano ang actual na role ni dating Pangulong Noynoy Aquino sa lahat ng yun? Siya ba talaga ay nagsugal ng buhay ng 44 na mga kawal ng SAF for a gambit na hindi naman actually gambit ng kanyang administrasyon, but it was an American gambit kasi ang mga Amerikano ultimately lang naghahabol kay Marwan eh? Or was it something that he did not out of the prodding of the Americans, but out of, basic sense of security? The guy was an international terrorist after all. Diba? And then, nung lumitaw na yung nagsarili raw si Purisima at si Pinoy, 'di ba? You remember the text, 'di ba? At yan yung binabato pabalik ni Peñas, 'di ba? Tapos lumitaw na rin na hindi pala alam ni Secretary Mar Rojas, DILG, di alam ni ganito ganyan. Parang sabi ko, bakit parang mas lumalabo yung kwento sa halip na mas lumilinaw siya? Ang daming smoke and mirrors. Ganyan. And it's not necessarily on Pinoy. Yan ang ano ko ngayon, kahit nung time na yon, parang it's not necessarily on him as an individual or as a president, but by the virtue of the office na and the position that he had. He was the commander-in-chief, he was the president of the republic after all. He must have, he must have done something, he should have done something, and if he didn't, if he failed to do some crucial things that could have saved the operation, so saan siya mananagot? Alam mo, ilang taon nang patay si Pinoy, I think 5th anniversary niya this year. I still had more questions and answers about it. Until now. Minsan may fascination ako. Basahin ko kaya ulit ngayon. Syempre, matanda na ako ngayon, di ba? Nagtitibak na ako lahat. Yes. Yung my understanding of things now is very much different from how I understood things at that time, syempre. Sabi ko, balikan ko kaya yung Board of Inquiry report, yung ganyan. Magbasa-basa lang ulit ako para lang, baka mamaya may sagot na pala sa akin. Syempre, hindi nahirapan lang because it was a complex issue. So, baka mas kaya ko siya sagutin ngayon.
Sige.
I haven't gotten around that though.
But basically, ang kailangan natin matutunan, like para sa mga ka-PI, na hindi madali maghanap ng katotohanan. Like hindi, hanggang ngayon, like isang dekada na hindi klaro ang pinag-uusapan natin tungkol sa Mama Sapano. Kasalanan ba ni Pinoy or is there something bigger? And I think that's what's exciting about a journalistic mind, na parang hindi it's not always finished, na kahit ma-publish isang beses ng isang story ay ibig sabihin tapos na, diba? So maybe
alam mo, yan ang isa sa mga immortal lessons sa akin about journalism ni Joel. There's always a story bigger than what you read. Lagi niya sasabi sa akin yan, there's always more to this than what meets the eye. Lagi yan.
And I think the best way you honor him is through that continuous questioning, which right now it's good to pivot to Project Gunita. So, kailan siya nagsimula at anong ginagawa ng Project Gunita? Na parang, maraming tao, I'm familiar with that. I followed it even before we became contacts, no? But, sige nga, what is it? And what do you do? Go ahead.
Okay, so nakwento ko na yung martial law background ko nung childhood, so hindi ko na ulitin yon. Now, fast forward to 2022. Syempre, given that kind of background, 'di ba? So syempre, I was really campaigning against the election of Marcos Jr. Syempre, yung, 'di ba? Why would you bring back to Malacanang the son of the dictator that we deposed at EDSA? Tapos, aktivista na rin ako noon. I was part of the National Democratic Movement at the time.
Yes.
nasa mga National Democratic Organizations na ako that time. I was very active that time. So I really went hard against BBM, against Marcos Jr. And I campaigned for former VP Leni Robredo, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. So fast forward to the elections, I was very heartbroken. No, I can say that openly. I was very heartbroken and crestfallen and infuriated when the initial results already showed Marcos leading way ahead of Robredo. And it's important to factor in the insight na hindi naman natin inakala na ganito palang mangyayari 4 years into the BBM administration. Makukulong pala si Duterte and all of that, di ba? Di ba? Yon. At the time, I was expecting a martial law redux. And one of the first things that came into my mind was the martial law archives.
Okay.
I've said this time and again since 2022. If you look at the history of dictatorships around the world, Mussolini, Hitler, George Vadela of si Vadela is Argentina ata. Pinochet, 'di ba? Sama mo na yung mga sama mo na yung mga socialist leaders na tinatawag na diktador ng classical, classical western academia, so to speak. Like Mao and Stalin, or lalo na si Stalin, I'll use him as an example na lang. Okay. If you look at the history of tyrannies and dictatorships around the world, including the monarchs, 'di ba? The monarchies of the past, ang unang-unang tinitira nila are the repositories of information, libraries and archives. Marcos did that also with martial law. Ang daming mga librong banned during martial law at yung tipong, putya, humawa ka nga lang ng polyeto galing sa opposition that time at basahin mo lang yun. Diba? Pag nahuli ka sa checkpoint ng Metrocom, ng Metropolitan Command, or pag nahuli ka ng militar, nahuli ka ng Philippine Constabulary, ano ka na, you're as good as dead. Diba? So I was expecting the return of that similar kind of scenario after it became very clear that Marcos Jr. will be the 17th president. So the next day, May 9 yung election, the next day, May 10, I wanted to go out. I wanted to join yung mga protesta sa harap ng Commission on Elections office that time, yung sa Intramuros. Pero di makalabas. Pero hindi na rin ako yung tipong yung typical kakamping na on the day after the elections, many of them umiiyak, tulala. They were in a daze, hindi sila pumasok sa trabaho, sa eskwelahan, 'di ba? Wala na rin ako doon kasi iniyak ko na lahat ng gabi. Nagsorry na ako sa tatay ko, sa lolo ko, sorry, di naman ako nakalimot, ganyan. So ano na ako noon? Galit na ako noon. I was bracing for a struggle, for a fight. Pero hindi ako makalabas. Puta, sabi ko, ano bang pwedeng gawin? Then, a good friend of mine na naging kaibigan ko in the course of the Leni campaign, si Sara Gomez, bigla siyang nag-message sa akin. Sabi niya, dude, I have the scanner. I was able to raise up donations to buy the scanner. I do not know what I can do with the scanner, but at least it's there whenever it's needed. Pucha, sabi ko, ang dami kong martial law book sa bahay at that time. Subversive Lives, Tibak Rising, yung Conjugal Dictatorship na second printing 1986, etc. Sabi ko, nako, mukhang kailangan na tong i-safe keep, kailangan na to i-digitize kasi mukhang pag naupo talagang nanumpa na si Marcos Jr., baka lahat to sunugin, alam mo yun, bawal, talagang lipulin lahat. So, sabi ko kay Sarah, what if we team up, mag-drum up tayo ng archiving effort. So, sabi niya, sige, nasa kanya yung scanner eh. Pinadala niya agad sa akin actually. So, okay. Nag-post ako nung gabi, May 10. The night of May 10, the day after the 2022 elections, I posted on my Facebook. Sabi ko, a friend of mine and I are teaming up to save martial law material, ganyan, make them more accessible before the next administration tries to clamp down on them. Sabi ko, maybe you can support it.
Mm.
So people started to ask how can we help. So a lot of our friends, a lot of our networks at that time na mostly nabuo dahil sa Lenny campaign,
Mm.
they started to spread the word. And
Mm.
after word spread around, people started to donate financially.
Mm.
1,000 pesos, 2,000 pesos. So, first run, nakaabot kami 23,000. Kung di ako
Mhm.
nagkakamali, between 20 to 25,000, mga ganyan.
Mm.
And then, after, uh, I started to buy more martial law books.
Mhm.
As in, for example, yung bound issues
Yes.
ng Mr. and Miss Special Edition. Yung first 36 issues na kasi
Mm.
kinompile siya into volumes 1
Right.
to 3.
Right.
Yung dilaw yung cover, yung Ninoy for Justice and Reconciliation series.
Mhm.
So, nabili na namin yon. Yung Politics of Plunder ni Belinda Aquino.
Mm.
Impossible Dream by the
Mhm.
late time correspondent Sandra Burton.
Mhm.
I think nakabili na rin kami na ng In Our Image ni Stanley Carno na isa
Mhm.
ring New York Times correspondent nun. Et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
So, nag-post ako. After a month, nag-post ako.
Mm.
Ito yung lahat ng donasyon na nakuha namin. Ito yung mga libro. Pinicturean ko lahat ng libro. Send the complete file.
Mm.
Ito, sabi ko, we're doing this to continue to help in archiving martial law material, ganyan.
Mhm.
And then when I posted the second time around, yung kasama ni mga pictures ng libro, may breakdown pa. Ito yung
Mm.
pera dito sa napunta, including down to shipping fee, ganyan.
Mm.
Mas maraming tao yung nakapansin, mas
Mhm.
maraming tao yung nag-donate.
Mhm.
At lumabot kami ng 60,000, more or less 60,000 nung second run.
Mhm.
And then umabot yan ng third run. Ang goal namin initially was, before June 30, before Marcos Jr. takes his oath,
Mm.
at high noon of June 30, kailangan digitize na lahat ng to.
Mhm.
Or at the very least, may repository na.
Right. And how big
Hey,
is it now? Yeah.
ngayon,
Mm.
more or less 600 material.
600 materials. Is that in PDF or
No,
like
physical to.
physical? Okay,
Yeah,
600
physical.
books in.
Kasama na yung mga currently pwede makita sa projectgunita.com.
Mhm.
Ano to? Mixture of books, old newspapers and news weeklies,
Mhm.
pamphlets, protest leaflets,
Mhm.
human rights reports,
Mhm.
magazines including both foreign and local.
Mm.
Yon.
Yeah.
Mostly yon. Mm-mm.
And
So,
right now it's a group that's 24,000 followers, so it's a big thing.
almost
So
25 actually.
25, okay. So maybe you can talk about like the impact it has so far, and what are some of the reactions of people have towards Project Unita? How big has it grown? Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, before I go to the part na, yung lumaki na siya, ganyan.
Mm-mm.
I'll backtrack ulit dun sa part na sinisimulan namin siya.
Yeah, okay.
Lalo siyang nagkaroon ng popularity actually
Mm.
when some of our booksellers started to
Yes.
inform us that they're also selling antique material, aka
Oh.
old newspapers and
Uh-huh.
magazines.
Uh-huh.
Tangina, doon kami nakakuha ng Mr. and Miss, doon kami nakakuha ng We Forum, as in
Uh-uh.
both the We Forum original, yung dyaryo, bago siya pinasara noong 1982, at yung We
Uh-uh.
Forum na magazine, which was
Mm-mm.
established right after the closure.
Mm.
Malaya, 'di ba, yung mga Joe Burgos newspapers, etc., etc., etc.
Mm-mm.
Lalo siyang sumipa. Tapos ako, syempre, hindi lang naman ako nagdi-digitize until now. Hindi lang
Mm-mm.
naman digitization yung personally ginagawa ko or
Mm-mm.
ginagawa namin. Ako personally, I read through every material.
Uh-huh.
Binabasa ko siya. At
Uh-uh.
lalo akong na-fire up dahil putya, sabi ko, ang dami ko nang nalaman about martial law since I was a kid. And yet I still apparently I still have to learn more
Mhm.
about it.
Yes.
Ang nasabi ko, yun na. So, dire-diretso na yon. Nung naupo na si BBM, nung nanumpa na si Marcos Jr., hindi pa kami tapos. Hindi pa kami tapos. 1 month after, mga early July, yon, doon na namin nilabas yung first batch
Mm.
of newspapers, etc. Na hanggang ngayon, yun na yung nakikita doon sa digital archives.
Mhm.
Now, bakit ko binalik doon ng konti? Kasi when we talk about, since you want me to talk about the impact,
Mm.
okay, Alam mo pare, marami namang martial law efforts na nauna sa amin eh. Bantayan ng mga
Mhm.
bayani, for example, was established in 1986.
Mhm.
August 1986, unang nabuo ang Bantayog.
Mhm.
Pero the museum and all, including the Wall of Remembrance, started mga early 90s na.
Mhm.
You have a lot of, during the 2022 campaign season, alam mo to, ang daming nagkalat na ng mga Google Drive, ng mga
Mhm.
documentaries, articles, libro, etc. about Marcos
Mhm.
Sr.
Mhm.
Okay? Maraming nauna sa amin.
Mhm.
Pero sa tingin ko, ang impact sa side namin, nanggaling dun sa fact na we promised to ourselves and to the public na we will not just post the material online. The goal
Mhm.
was not only the preservation
Yes.
in digital and physical form.
Mhm.
The goal was the popularization both of the material and of the information
Mhm.
contained in the material. Simple
Mhm.
lang naman argumento namin, and this is still our argument to this day.
Mhm.
Ang linya ng mga historical denialists, no, at
Mhm.
that time yung mga Marcos loyalist pa, no, nung wala pang nung
Mhm.
wala pang
Split, divorce, unit
wala
50.
pang
Oo.
Marcos Duterte, the great split ika nga
Oo.
ng
Oo.
Marcos at Duterte. So
Oo.
combined forces pa sila.
Oo.
Remember, ang linya nila noon, and some continue to peddle this to this day, is bakit kayo maniniwala sa mga libro, etc. Yan ay pinagsusulat lamang ni Cory at ng mga komunista.
Mhm.
Argument namin simple lang. The books fine. Although some of the books kasi na we have were also published at the time na si Marcos Sr. pang presidente on diktador. Like
Yes.
Counterfeit Revolution ni Ruben Canoy, yung
Mhm.
Conjugal Dictatorship of course, at
Mhm.
saka yung Untold Story of Imelda Marcos ni Carmen Navarro Pedrosa.
Yes.
Okay. Pero ilan lang yun. Eh, totoo naman, karamihan ng mga libro, they were published right after EDSA.
Mhm.
Some are smarter than others, Impossible Dreams,
Yes.
In Our Image. Lahat yan, nagsimula yan, mga late 80s to early 90s na publish eh.
Mhm.
So there's a credence to that argument. Pero sabi namin, okay, eto yung mga dyaryo.
Oh.
Eto yung mga lumang dyaryo. Look at the dates. We forum between 1980 to 82
Mhm.
before they were closed down.
Mhm.
Malaya 83 to 86.
Mhm.
Mr. and Miss 83 to 86.
Mhm.
Ano to? Yung Philippine Science 83 to 84.
Mhm.
'Di ba? Look at sabi namin, look at the dates of the human rights reports, 'di ba? Yung mga data ng Task Force Detainees of the Philippines, they
Mhm.
were released 1977, 1983, 1986. Look at the Amnesty International reports, some of them extensively quoted in the
Mhm.
newspapers that we're also archiving.
Mhm.
Look at the dates nung mga polyeto,
Mhm.
1983,
Mhm.
1984, specifically the ones calling for the boycott of the 1984 batasan elections. Sabi namin, sino ang presidente nung panahon na yun?
Mhm.
Marcos pa rin.
Mhm.
Unironically. Di ba? Marcos pa rin. So ang
Mhm.
point namin, this historical and archival material were published at a time na si Marcos pa yung
Mhm.
presidente, and if you put that in a strict historical context,
Yes.
the Marcos dictatorship outlawed every single effort to publish anything that will put the dictatorship in a very detrimental or negative light.
Mhm.
Tangina, magbiro ka nga lang sa martial law, bawal eh.
Mhm.
'Di ba? Remember that urban myth about Ariel Oreta
Yes.
being forced to bike around Fort
Yeah.
Bonifacio dahil
It's an
nagbiro
urban
siya na
myth.
sa ikaunlad ng bayan, bisikletang kailangan, 'di
Oo.
ba?
Yeah. I remember. So
So
hindi
this
mm.
so these journalists, these publishers, these writers, these reporters, they risk life and limb literally
Mm.
to bring a lot of information, uh, to bring light to a lot of information that the Marcos censorship
Mhm.
was trying to
Mhm.
obscure and obfuscate
Oo.
human rights atrocities, yung mga initial revelations about the Marcoses' ill-gotten wealth,
Oo.
yung issue sa Bataan Nuclear Power Plant,
Mm.
yung napakaraming forma ng paglaban ng mamamayang Pilipino,
Mm.
'di ba? Kasi ang isa pang narrative, masingit ko lang, isa pang narrative about EDSA, 'di ba, is false narrative about EDSA People Power 1 is sa Manila lang nangyari yung paglaban. That's very false. If you look at archival material, Mr. Remis pa lang napaka-extensive ng coverage ng mga protesta, welga, including atrocities in the countryside, in Mindanao, in Visayas, 'di ba? At hindi lang ito Cebu at Davao, ha. You go to Butuan, you go to Misamis Occidental and Oriental, you go to Negros, you go to Samar, 'di ba? So, sabi namin, this material are telling us the truths, that the truthful information, the facts that the Marcos dictatorship tried so hard to censor, tried so hard to stop from publication.
Yeah.
Because these are the truths that will cement the fact that Marcos was a notorious murderer, torturer, plunderer. At hindi pwedeng i-argue dito na pakana lang yan ni Cory, pakana lang yan ng mga komunista. Kasi una sa lahat, Cory was not even president at that point. She was a grieving widow, attending protest actions leading protest marches against Marcos. Okay? Yung mga komunista, yung communist movement at that time, although they were already, mas malaki na sila definitely by 100-fold noong time na yun, kumpara nung nagsimula sila nung 1968-69, they did not have enough wherewithal to, to basically peddle in disinformation kung totoo man yun. Kasi, putya pare, nagtatago nga sila eh. They were carrying out an underground struggle at yung mga nasa above ground naman, mas abala pa silang magplano ng mga welgang bayan at kilos protesta at mga forum at whatever kaysa maglabas ng dedicated series of pamphlets na puro kasinungalingan lang pala. So itong mga reporter na ng Mosquito Press, itong mga sila Leti Magsanok, Joe Burgos Jr., Ceres Doyo, etc., they risk life and limb literally to bring out the facts that were being hidden, that were being buried by the Marcos dictatorship. Yun yung ginagamit namin argument to this day. At tingin ko doon nanggagaling yung impact kasi from martial of survivors to EDSA veterans to the young people of who are the same age as I am, if not younger. Pucha, pag nakita nila yung dyaryo, either sa Facebook yung mga clippings or kapag dinidisplay namin sila in exhibits, roadshow namin sila pag may mga forums, habang nag-forum may exhibit no. Pucha, pare, pag nakikita nila, minsan alam mong mas interesado silang tignan lang yung mga silip-silipin lang yung mga dyaryo kaysa sa makinig sa'yo. And that's a positive thing for me. Kasi nagkakaroon, bumabalik yung interest ng tao, hindi lang sa history in general, but particularly about the histories of martial law, both the told and the untold histories. And that's what matters. Alam mo, Matt, there are a lot of untold, quote-unquote, untold histories about martial law. Untold in the sense na ngayon lang natin sila nalalaman. Na kahit kaming, putya, nalalaman lang namin because of the archiving work that we continue to do.
For those who don't know Project Gunita, you're about to give some example. What do you think are the most important and shocking highlights in your archive right now so people can check them out?
Ayan, dyan ako papunta actually.
Sige, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Dyan ako papunta. Alam mo, okay, I'll cite, if you will indulge me, I'll cite 3 examples. Okay. Number 1, do you know that in 1976, Marcos Sr. Inserted an amendment into the 1973 Marcos Constitution, wherein he did not only retain his decree-making powers as a dictator, puso pare, kapantay niya ang batasan. He can make a law by himself. And if he does not like any law being passed by batasan, which will exist 2 years after pa in 1978, 'di ba? Yun ang unang batasan elections eh. He can easily quash it. He can easily repeal it. He didn't have to go through the parliament, 'di ba? Para sa Congress ngayon, if BBM wants to repeal a law, he'll have to go through the Congress. Ito si Marcos hindi. He can literally repeal it simply by issuing a presidential decree. It's called Amendment 6. Marami pang sabit ang Amendment 6, but basically the gist of Amendment 6 was it gave Marcos a whole lot more of power
Uh-huh.
than Proclamation 1081 ever did.
Mhm.
And Amendment 6 was being protested not only by the left, not only by the moderates, even sila Cory, alam mo, may nakita ko sa campaign material ni Cory displayed in the Aquino Museum, Central Museum in Tarlac. Putya, nakita mo doon, nakalagay doon, talagang isang issue nilang malaki kay Marcos, Amendment 6. Okay, number 1. Number 2, do you live in Quezon City? If you won't mind.
I live in the Taguig. We've been talking about my hometown actually. Pero sige.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, magkababayan pala tayo, Teki.
Kababayan
Okay.
tayo. Pero sige, sa Quezon City, anong meron?
Okay, in Quezon City, in June 1985, so 40 years ago, alam mo kung nasan yung St. Luke's?
Teka lang.
Yung St.
Sige lang.
Luke's, Quezon City.
Oo.
Hindi, I'll give you the answer. It's a rhetorical question.
Sige.
It's within a barangay. It's adjacent. Malapit siya sa isang barangay called Tatalon. Barangay Tatalon.
Oo.
Sa may Irod yan. It's along E. Rodriguez Senior Avenue. Okay. So yung barangay Tatalon, it had a long-standing land issue. Urban poor issue ulit to. And in June 23, 1985, nag-execute ng demolition yung estado. So, cops were sent, Metrocom cops, PC members, PC officers, they were sent to Barangay Tatalon to basically evict the entire communities and demolish their houses. The communities, of course, fought back. Because it was martial law, the response was very Marcosian.
Yes.
They were dispersed brutally, and I do not only mean tear gases and water cannons. They were literally sprayed with the volley of bullets. Dalawang namatay nung araw na yon. One was a young kid and the other was mid-30s ata, mid-20s or mid-30s. Hindi na siya halos naaalala ng even if you go to Barangay Tatalon now and ask about this incident I'm mentioning. Baka it's barely remembered already. But back in the day, headline yan sa mga dyaryo. It's now remembered as the Tatalon Massacre. During the campaign of Cory for the presidency in 8, yan ang isa sa mga issues ng human rights na binabato nila laban kay Marcos. The Tatalon Massacre. Kasi ganyan kagrabe yung pag-handle ng that's the extent of the brutality with which the Marcos dictatorship dealt with people's resistance. Pero putay na, hindi na yan halos naaalala ngayon. You remember Tatalon, the area of Barangay Tatalon now probably for St. Luke's, 'di ba? Irod. Alam ko malapit din ang Barangay Tatalon sa may Amoranto. Sports complex. Yun lang. Pero very obscured na tong detail na to.
Yeah.
Pero pag tinignan mo yung mga dyaryo, putya siyang headline, pare. Complete with pictures. At ano yan? Hanggang dun sa burol at libing nung dalawang napatay sa Tatalon, kinover ng mosquito press yan. Okay. The third example. For our listeners, no, sa mga ka-PI natin, kilala nyo yung kanto, yung pa-triangle na kanto ng Makati Avenue, Paseo de Rosa at Ayala Avenue. You know it now most likely as the Ayala Triangle Gardens. Ang DL de Libro dyan ginaganap.
Yes.
Yung iba't ibang mga social na kaganapan nandyan. Some of the fanciest restaurants in Makati you could see there.
Yeah.
Pero nung dekada 80, it's not the Ayala that we know. It's not even a commercial hub that it is now. Back in the day, literal na talahiban lang siya, and it's called the Ugarte Field, Sebastian Ugarte Football Field. It's named after a football player named Sebastian Ugarte. Okay. Tapos, kung medyo familiar ka sa aviation history ng Pilipinas, kaya pa triangle yan kasi tarmac yan dati ng isang airport or airbase ata ng mga Amerikano back in the day. Okay. So, after Ninoy Aquino was assassinated in 1983, Ugarte Field became the Menjola of Makati, believe it or not. Yung mga sinasabing yellow confetti rallies, na pag nag-rally yung tao, literal na umuulan ng dilaw na confetti, dyan yan nangyari. And on February 10, 1986, this was a few days after the snap elections of 1986, sa Ugarte Field, dyan nag-rally si Cory Aquino, Doy Laurel, along with the other leaders of the opposition, Lorenzo Tañada, Ambrosio Padilla, Chino Roses, etc. Dyan sila nag-rally to proclaim the people's victory over Marcos during the snap elections, kahit na syempre dinaya naman yon. Okay. So rally, may misa, ganyan. And then after the rally, the dispersal na, organized dispersal na, ganyan. A huge contingent of pro-Cory protestors, di ba? From Ugarte decided to go to Batasan. After nangyari to after nung walkout nung computer tabulator sa official canvassing count ng COMELEC sa PICC. So after the walkout kasi nilipat na sa Batasan yung canvassing, yung official canvassing. Okay. So sabi ng mga marami dun na matendo sa rally ni Cory, punta tayong Batasan, bantayan natin yung boto. Yung flatbed truck na ginamit na stage nila Cory just a few hours ago, sinakyan ng mga tao na instant transport papunta ng Batasan kasi puta 10-wheeler yan pare na flatbed eh. Dami kang pwede sakay diyan. So lusot sila ng Paseo de Rojas palabas ng Buendia. Tapos sa Buendia sila lulusot pa EDSA all the way to Quezon City. To Batasan. Okay. Pucha pare, pagdaan nila ng Buendia Avenue, makalampas lang konti nung building ng City Trust ba yun? Tama, City Trust Bank. Malaking building, whole-ass building ng City Trust Bank. Napatigil sila kasi biglang yung isa sa mga nakasakay doon sa truck, biglang naging duguan. His name is Arsenio Toribio. He was called as Archie. Archie Toribio. He was a 21-year-old Zamboangan native who was working for a parlor ata in Makati in 1986. And then nandun siya sa truck papunta ng Batasan. He was shot dead by a sniper.
Sniper.
He was shot dead by a sniper force of the dictator. Pare, anong kasalanan niya? You might ask, diba? Someone might ask, anong kasalanan niya? His only crime, quote unquote, was he wore a yellow Cory pin to his chest, and he carried a placard that said Marcos concede. And then he was shot dead by a fucking sniper. Along Buendia Avenue. He was rushed to Makati Medical Center, but he was already pronounced dead.
Yes.
Yung katabi niya, si Lilibet Quijano, dinaplisan ng bala. Dinaplisan din siya ng bala. And Archie, while he was dying because he was shot fatally, he held on to Miss Quijano. And then he was telling her, "Wag niyo akong iiwan, wag niyo akong pababayaan, wala akong kakilala rito." And then he was dead. Pag pinag-uusapan yung kasaysayan ngayon sa Ayala, yung kasaysayan ng protesta sa Ayala Avenue, you'd often remember the confetti rallies, you'd often remember the vivacity, the color, whatever. Pero tangina pare, headline ng Inquirer yan nung February 11, 1986. Yan ang headline ng Inquirer. Sniper kills one, wounds another in Cory rally. Makita mo sa Mr. and Miss, yan ang unang-unang balita. Yan ang unang-unang item sa February 14 to 20, 1986 issue ng Mr. and Miss. You look at We Forum, the magazine, yan din ang laman ng We Forum. Binalita rin yan sa Malaya ng ilang beses. But barely anyone remembers Archie Toribio now. And it's heavier for me kasi, pucha pare, when we talk about martial law, extrajudicial killings during martial law, you'd often remember Ninoy Aquino, Maclean Dulag, Father Zacarias Agatep, Edgar Hopson, di ba? Etc. etc. Pero, di ba? The Marcos dictatorship killed until the very end. Doon pa lang sa eleksyon, alam mo ginawa namin to sa PG. Sundutin ko na. Ginawa namin sa PG to ng isang listahan. Nitong February, in commemoration of the 40th anniversary of the snap elections, we were able to collate more or less than 25 names of people who were killed from January to February 1986 simply because they were supporting the opposition or because they were part of election watchdogs guarding the votes against plausible fraud by Marcos and company.
Right.
Arsenio Toribio was one of them. But unfortunately, our forgetful nation has barely remembered him.
Right.
During the 40th anniversary of his death last February. And okay, this is not the people's fault. But I'm just saying na ako, ang dami ko nang alam tungkol sa martial law simula bata ako. Pero yung kay Arsenio Toribio, for example, yung sa tatalon, pucha even amendment number 6, puchang nalaman ko lang yan, pare, when we started to do the archiving work. Paano pa yung marami nating kababayan, especially people who were born after EDSA 1 like you and me, 'di ba? Who did not live through that time. Ang dami ko bang pwede sabihin, pucha, pwede tayo umabot ang galas stress, nagbabanggit lang ako ng mga wow, yung mga ganon. Pero itong tatlong to, ito yung hanggang ngayon nagsa-stand out sa akin, pare. And there are only 3 out of the many factual information from the Marcos period, na nagsa-stand out sa akin hanggang ngayon, na nalaman ko lang through the archives. So there.
Well, I'm sure they have a lot more to share, and that's these 3 alone are actually, ako rin, medyo tahimik lang ako dito kasi nakikinig lang ako. But I think, the nature of the project, siguro kasi, you said 600 materials. That's a lot, and it might be overwhelming for many of us, our listeners, or maybe ordinary Filipinos. So I suppose we can begin wrapping up by saying, like, maybe as a concluding statement, what is the future of Project Gunita, and like how would you recommend Filipino citizens to maybe engage and use this, considering this? I mean, no one can read all of these things. No? I mean, maybe some people, maybe they can read some of it, but how do we engage with these memories? Because the evidence, napakarami, napakabigat, as in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what can we do? Because again, mabigat siya, marami. So we can't ask everyone to read everything. But what do we have to know? What do we have to do moving forward? Go ahead.
Pare, alam mo, the primordial task is not to read everything. The primordial task is to continue remembering, and remembering is a continuing act. In the same way that the Marcos dictatorship's crimes are continuing crimes, in our view, in my personal view, the act of remembering should also be a continuing one. Ang panahon ng mga Kastila, halimbawa, hanggang ngayon inaalala natin, we continue to unearth a lot of new facts about Rizal. Even when Rizal law was promulgated noong 1956 pa, we continue to unearth a lot of new information about Bonifacio. A lot of new information came into light after the release of the movie Quezon by Gerald Taro. About the guy, 'di ba? About the man and the myth. Joke lang. 'Di ba? So hindi naman natin nire-require mga sarili natin. Kailangan basahin natin lahat ng libro tungkol kay Rizal, kay Bonifacio, kay ganyan. But by default, we as a people continue to remember not only them, but the times in which they lived, in which they fought, in which they offered their lives in the case of Rizal and Bonifacio. Why can't we do the same for martial law? You
Mhm.
do not have to read every single book. I want to because I would read as much as I can because I want to.
Mhm.
Pero no one is ever required to do that, even sa side namin.
Mm.
But what I feel is required of us, is asked of us, is wag tayong makakalimot.
Mm.
The simple virtue and act, but the simple virtue of the act of remembering
Mm.
means that we will continue as a people, we will continue to endeavor to inform ourselves as much as we can about the Marcos dictatorship. And
Mm.
tulad ng palaging pinapaalala sa akin ng aking isang mabuting kaibigan din at mentor na si Red Constantino, the
Mm.
grandson of the late historian,
Mm.
nationalist historian Renato Constantino,
Mm.
the never again and never forget should not only start and end in 1972 and 1986.
Mhm.
Because Marcos and the dictatorship that he established was a product of the social conditions
Mhm.
that if you, na pag trace back mo siya, it was built from as far back as Katipunan
Mm.
and the colonial regime that it fought and ousted.
Mm.
Yung diwa ng mga revolusyonaryo at mamamayang makabayan, militante
Mm.
na lumaban sa diktadurang Marcos,
Mm.
hindi yan putok sa buho.
Mm.
Merong iyang sinusundan na isang revolutionary heritage and patriotic tradition.
Mm.
In the same way that Marcos did not exist in a vacuum.
Mm.
He was following he was following a tradition of violence and corruption and lying that were forced upon us by our colonial and eventually our neo-colonial conditions as a
Mm.
nation.
Mm.
Talagang you have to go back from before.
Mm.
So, the virtue of the act of remembering should be a continuing virtue, or the act
Mm.
of remembering should be a continuing act. And kami, sa bahagi namin sa Project Unita, ang kaya namin gawin is to continue to supply the necessary historical
Mm.
information and context, more importantly, that can allow us, especially the post-Marcos, the post-EDSA generations, to continue analyzing and synthesizing and understanding
Mm.
much more and much better the about much more about the Marcos dictatorship and understanding it in a
Mm.
much better sense. Okay.
Mm.
Ngayon, um nanalo na si presidente, halos 4 na taon ng presidente yung anak
Mhm.
ng diktador.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are now seeing him in a different light because the Dutertes are proving themselves to be far worse.
Yes.
That is a valid statement.
Mhm.
But is that a valid stance? Para sa akin, at hindi lang ito dahil sa aking leftist leftist background, no?
Right.
Pero ito rin ay bunga ng aking historical understanding about the Marcoses.
Mhm.
Wala silang pinagkaiba ni Duterte except that the Marcos tradition, the Marcos brand has more finesse than the
Mhm.
Duterte. Ang Marcos brand, hindi ka mumurahin sa publiko, hindi yan sasabihin, patayin mo yan.
Mhm.
The Marcos Sr. did not say you kill Ninoy Aquino, but his military and police carried out Oplan Balikbayan simply for the purpose of killing him.
Mm.
Okay? Unlike Duterte, nasasabi niya, patayin mo yung adik, patayin mo yung
Mm.
komunista, barilin mo sa puke, di ba? Marcos hindi. Yun lang pinagkaiba nila.
Mhm.
Pero pucha pare, they're both Machiavellian actors. Their hands are both stained with the blood of innocent people.
Yeah.
They were both mired in corruption.
Mm.
Billions of pesos stolen by both dynastic families.
Mhm.
Why am I saying this? Because in part of understanding the fact that remembering should be a continuing act,
Mhm.
part of that is also the understanding that we should not let him be off the hook simply because he kind of proves, at least in propaganda media sense,
Yeah.
in PR sense, he proves to be more Georgetown educated, quote unquote.
Mhm.
Even if, he flunked his studies and all, he appears to be such over Duterte,
Mm.
no? Tago yung bloodlust, tago yung penchant for corruption, di
Right.
ba?
Mm.
And that is an ultimate lesson from martial law.
Okay.
Marcos Sr. was a very intelligent figure.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of gumption. He was an eloquent speaker to a certain extent. He was a fucking wordsmith, but then he was also a murderer. He was also a plunderer. He was also a torturer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and hindi dahil si Presidente Marcos
Mm.
Jr. ay hindi nagmumura, hindi dahil si Presidente Marcos Jr. ay hindi nagbabanta sa publiko, papatayin kita.
Mm-hmm.
Hindi ibig sabihin nun wala siyang kasalanan o
Okay.
hindi ibig sabihin nun siya yung mas matinong dinastiya.
Mm.
Kasi the fact that he never apologized up to this day,
Yeah.
never apologized for the crimes of martial law. He never returned the remaining of the remaining half of the stolen wealth
Yeah.
na ninakaw nila. The fact that he continues to escape accountability dun sa 203 billion
Right.
na tax na estate tax liabilities nila.
Mm.
It means martial law in itself is a continuing crime.
Okay.
So remembering about it should also be a continuing virtue, and more importantly, a continuing call to action. Again, ang bahagi namin dito is we will provide the necessary historical context and information as much as we could with all the material that we have, and
Alright.
hopefully we will still have. Pero ang hamon ngayon sa mamamayang Pilipino, patuloy siyang gunitain. I understand na May 1 lalabas to, no? Sa May 1 lalabas tong podcast na to. And may I mention as part of the closing.
Yeah.
In May 1, 1971, of course, May 1, Labor Day.
Yep.
Okay. In May 1, 1971, this was one full year before martial law was declared.
Mm-hmm.
There was this rally in Manila. I think in Menjola, if I'm not mistaken. Led by workers, students, etc., etc.
Oh.
And then, Marcos style, it was dispersed violently, it was dispersed brutally. And one of the casualties, one of the martyrs, yun yung mas dignified na term, one of the martyrs of that May 1971, Battle of May 1, 1971, was a woman student activist named Lisa Balando. Okay. Sana maalala natin na ang maraming kabanata sa kasaysayan pinagbuhusan at pinagbuwisan ng dugo, buhay, pawis ng napakarami nating mga kababayan. That 1971 episode is just a snapshot. The fact na may Labor Day in the first place, it was also born out of the struggle of working people, of working class men back in the day.
Okay.
And we will only be able to we will only able to appreciate all of this. We will only be able to understand all of this, and we will only be able to probably even have answers to a lot of our questions regarding our present crisis, our present socio-political conditions. If we continue to remember the past, because it will always be our bridge to not only to the future, but more importantly to our present. A lot of our problems stems back. A lot of them, they stem back from the failures and the crimes of the past. So we should continue to remember in all ways possible.
Okay. Oh my God, Carl. Thank you so much. You've given us so much. So much to ang daming kwento at marami pa.
Kulang
600 plus. Kulang pa yan. Actually, pwede ka
kung binigyan mo ako ng beer.
Oo nga. We could do that, no? But again, for this episode, this is plenty. So maybe just please invite the listeners, where can they find Project Gunita and what they do to help continue the project. Go ahead.
Okay. So, sa Project Gunita na mismo, you can find us on almost all social media platforms. We're on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. Yung digital archives po natin ngayon, hindi na siya simpleng Google Drive. We have already, they're still in Google Drive, but we have already created and launched our official website where you can easily access them. You just go to projectgunita.com to access the historical
Mm-mm.
material that we have digitized so far. Marami pa
Right.
po kaming ilalabas in the next few weeks and months and years, no. Marami pa 'yan.
Mm-mm.
And then I'll use this this opportunity to endorse shout out, no, doon sa ating historical game material that we have developed along with the concerned artists of the Philippines. It's
Mhm.
a role-playing game. It's a
Mhm.
role-playing card game called Dictador.
Ah.
Okay. Ah, using ang prototype nito yung mga RPG yung mostly D&D model to,
Yeah.
Dragons and
Dungeons and
Dungeons.
Dragons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the card game allows you to immerse through the experiences of martial law survivors
Mhm.
by using a specific set of campaigns, yun yung tawag sa kanya, but they're actually situations stemming from the Marcos period. And then you'll be assigned a character and your goal is to survive.
Mhm.
Your goal, lahat kayong naglalaro, the goal is to survive the challenges that the game master or the dictador will impose based on the specific set of campaign that
Mm-mm.
the players will choose.
Mm-mm.
Parang ganun siya. Okay. So, this is our along with Cap, no, this is our humble contribution, another humble contribution to further popularizing the um, popularizing martial law education,
Mhm.
especially to our young people.
Mm-mm.
So, open na po ang pre-order forms for Dictador. You can
Mm-mm.
visit Project Unita, the page of Project Unita on Facebook. You can also
Mm-mm.
visit sa Facebook
Mm-mm.
yung ano to? Yung page mismo ng Dictador. You just
Mm-mm.
search up for Dictador, role-playing card game, ganyan.
Yes.
It will appear sa Facebook. Andun na po yung pre-order forms. Hopefully, you can continue to support that effort, not
Oo.
only to help us, in,
Yes.
procuring and
Mm-mm.
safekeeping more material, but also, let's spread the word. At
Yes.
least in a fun, quote-unquote, fun way
Okay.
about the people's valiant struggle
Mm-mm.
to defeat the 20-year Marcos Senior dictatorship. Tapos
Mm-mm.
ano pa ba? Sana sa mga susunod pang mga paggunita, no, hindi lang kapag February, August at September, pero sa iba pang mga petsa na very
Yes.
relevant to martial law, I hope you can continue to support us. I hope you can continue to spread the word around, no? Hindi dahil presidente na si Marcos Jr. at in 2 years ay bababa na siya.
Mm-mm.
Hindi dahil ganon ay tapos na yung laban, no?
Mm-mm.
Again, it's remembering should be a continuing act.
Mm-mm.
Should be a continuing call to action
Mm-mm.
because the crimes of martial law are continuing crimes.
Oo.
Wala ang hustisya hanggang ngayon. So, sana po magsama-sama tayo. Let us
Mm-mm.
do our part, no? Lahat tayo, let us do our part to maintain uh, our historical memory as a people,
Mm-mm.
even if we live in the or under the truism that
Mm-mm.
we are a forgetful nation. We might be, but we have the potential and the capacity to 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 turn the situation around para hindi na
Yes.
tayo maging isang forgetful nation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carl. We'll send the links to Project Gunita and Dictador and where you can find them, and you decide for yourselves, listeners, kung anong gagawin mo sa mga
Correct.
and all these stories, all these materials. So thank you, Carl. And I think you're good enough for like 10 or 20 episodes, but we'll definitely have you back. Pero salamat sa sa unang episode mo dito sa PI Podcast for this Mayo Uno special.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
Sige.
very much. And Mayo Uno, sana sa harap, singit ko na to personal
Sige.
sa harap ng lumalalang krisis na hinaharap ng bayan natin ngayon, especially sa usapin ng pagtaas ng presyo ng langis, ng presyo
Mm-mm.
ng mga bilihin, sa tumitinding giyera sa Iran, no, na
Mm-mm.
tinutulak ni Trump at ni Netanyahu. Sana magsama-sama rin tayo sa Mayo Uno,
Mm-mm.
hindi lang para palakasin yung panawagan ng sektor ng mga manggagawa
Mm.
para sa mas nakabubuhay na sahod, etc. Pero ito rin yung isang propitious opportunity and time,
Mm.
no, for us to join the broader call to stop
Mm.
the ongoing imperialist war by the US-Israel tandem on Iran, na siya naman talaga naging ugat ng lahat ng ito. at sana ay magkaroon ng pangmatagalang at makatarungang kapayapaan, hindi lang
Oo.
sa ating bansa, pero sa buong mundo. Sana ah, palakasin natin yung panawagan na
Mm.
itigil na yung mga ang tawag ng mga progresibo diyan, mga imperialistang atake,
Yeah.
no? Sa iba't ibang mga bansa na
Mm.
tina-target ng Amerika at ng Israel, no? Nang sa gayon ay maitaguyod natin ang tunay at makatarungang kapayapaan para sa lahat.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Salamat mga ka-PI. Magandang gabi, mga ka-PI. Yeah. Stop recording.